I cried on my first day. I did not want to tell my parents, I didn't want my friends to know that this is what I'm doing now. I was a financial analyst there, right? I was doing great in my life. When I came here, I got this delivery job.
This is a story of young South Asians who came to Germany in the hope of a better life. Instead, they find themselves trapped in a cycle of debt and exploitation.
It's a scamster, it's looting me. I cannot tell anyone about this. I'm depressed.
It's also the story of modern marketing and middlemen.
Education, housing, job, everything is managed by middlemen.
You give so much money, and then before you want to go back, you think of all these loans and the debits that you have. So you want to go back, but you cannot because of this financial pressure.
The economics of broken dreams. Coming up on Business Beyond.
Here in Berlin, as in many other European cities, the food delivery business has exploded.
In only a few years, revenue from meal delivery has more than doubled, leading to a huge demand for labour. Much of that labour increasingly comes from one part of the world.
Where are you from?
I'm from India.
I'm from India. I'm from India.
According to the Indian office of the German Academic Exchange Service, or DAAD, the number of Indian students coming to Germany has doubled in just 5 years, a trend that was accelerated by a migration pact the two countries signed in 2022. For Indian students, there are two legal routes into Germany. Either enroll in a public university, which costs very little but is hard to get into, or a private expensive one with a far lower barrier of entry and often a large marketing machine behind it.
Getting an admit is absolutely a cakewalk. You just need 50% in your bachelor's degree and an IELTS score of 6.5, no band less than 6.
But once in Germany, many foreign students face far higher living costs than at home, forcing many of them into precarious and often exploitative work in the food delivery sector. I've come to meet people who can tell me exactly how the system works. Rohit is a member of food delivery platform Lieferando's Employees Council, an elected body that represents workers' interests to management. He also works as a rider himself.
The expectations are nowadays set by social media, and they see a lot of reels and stories of how good the life here in Germany is. And in the end, their dreams are shattered.
The high cost of paying for private universities creates a problem. Many students end up barely able to make ends meet once in Germany, let alone transfer money to their home country. The German government requires migrants from many non-EU countries to prove their financial stability by opening what's called a blocked account, with a minimum of €11,904 deposited, a sum many have to borrow from a bank in their home country. Once here, they can only withdraw a maximum of €992 each month. That's often only enough to cover their university fees, leaving them in desperate need of a job to pay for everything else from rent to food. That's exactly the situation 26-year-old Bhavya found himself in. Before he came to Germany, he was already master's educated and had a well-paid job as a financial analyst in Delhi. But, bombarded by ads on Instagram and messages on WhatsApp from agencies promoting universities in Germany, he became convinced that he'd have an even brighter future pursuing a career in data science in Germany.
They get your data from somewhere, they just send you messages and at times emails as well, right? If you want to earn more, or there's a great opportunity coming in Germany, you get a good life.
But the reality once he got to Berlin was very different. Finding affordable housing was an immediate problem in a city in the midst of a property crisis. High rental costs, often in cramped apartments with other young Indians, and shady rental terms meant he desperately needed to find work. When he couldn't find a job matching his skills, fellow students suggested food delivery.
How much will they pay me? Peanuts. Less than peanuts. If you work for 12 hours, maybe if you're lucky, you'll get 80 or maximum 90 euros a day. And you're working 12 hours a day for that.
To work in food delivery, his friends gave him a WhatsApp number. They didn't know the identity behind it, and he didn't either. But contact with the middleman led to his first job delivering food for a subcontractor of Volt. But it quickly became clear to Bavia that this was not going to be a normal worker-employee relationship.
You'll get threats as well. If you're not working, you're not online, right? They'll be like, okay, I'll just disconnect you from the application. You will be out of work in a second.
Who's sending you these threats? The
This
WhatsApp
same,
number?
Yes, the same exact WhatsApp number. They will tell each and every student, they will just force them to work maybe 10 hours or 12 hours a day. And then if they do not, they just cut them off immediately. They do not have any obligation towards you. They can do that easily. It's so easy for them. One day you're working, another day you're jobless.
Officially, he was supposed to be paid by the hour, but that wasn't how it worked in practice. The method of payment wasn't above board either.
There was in bank accounts, some of it was cash, yeah.
How did you get the cash?
Okay, you will find a person, maybe some alley, you have to go there at a particular time, you can go there, and then you hope they'll make your payment. They make payments, but they are most certainly that you won't get paid enough or even what they promised you. That they do not promise you anything. The promises are not binded by law, right?
This legal ambiguity occurs because riders delivering for platforms like Volt and Uber Eats are often not employed directly by those companies. Instead, they're hired by subcontractors. Like Rohit, Sami is a member of Lieferando's Works Council.
The subcontractor, they are kind of this temporary companies without any physical office. So it's only a WhatsApp number. So you get in touch on this WhatsApp number, and there you get the instructions on which point, on which day, where to come and collect your cash envelopes. And that's it.
He says subcontractors have become adept at avoiding Germany's financial authority, the Finanzamt, by declaring bankruptcy and forming new companies as soon as they're asked for a tax declaration. According to Sami, subcontractors often don't provide riders with safety equipment. Instead, riders turn to social media to buy and sell gear, and to informally arrange jobs. He's baffled that German authorities are not more focused on clamping down on the subcontractors. He says they're effectively gaming the system so they can avoid paying normal costs associated with having employees.
How the subcontractor benefit is, it's not only they're exploiting the migrant workers, it's actually systematically stealing of millions of euros of taxes from the social security and from the healthcare. And that makes me worries about where our German authorities, why they're not looking at this thing.
I asked Berlin Senate's Department of Finance how it deals with companies that regularly change their structure. It said internal mechanisms ensure that tax matters are traceable and that the tax obligations of both the old and new company are enforced. But that only works if there's a paper trail.
Many riders don't receive any contracts at all, but I have managed to get my hands on one document that some riders working for a subcontractor of Uber Eats have received.
I ask Mo, another member of the Lieferando Works Council, to walk me through it. He points out a number of inconsistencies.
It's a limited contract which has a duration of 3 or 4 months, but then tries to arrange a probation time of 6 months, which does not make any sense. There's a German work time law which says either you have a maximum amount of hours to work and agreed upon, or you have a minimum amount. And what this contract tries to do is to do both, and then as well speaks about an average amount. This is at least not following the logic of the law.
Still, the fact that this piece of paperwork exists at all already gives workers more rights than they would otherwise have.
This is the first step towards pushing, improving these work contracts and improving the work conditions, which is literally impossible if your employer is a WhatsApp number. Yes, you cannot go with your phone and show it to court and say, I want to sue this WhatsApp number. I want to sue this chat. It's not possible.
While Germany's leading food delivery platform Lieferando has been employing workers directly and giving them legitimate contracts, it recently announced it was letting go of 1,500 riders. Interpreted as a sign that it too was moving in the direction of subcontracting, the decision triggered major protests in Berlin. Concern about this kind of employment model is growing. According to a ranking on platform work in Germany conducted by action research project Fair Work, where a score of 10 represents the minimum standards of fair work, Lieferando scored 4 points, with Bolt, Uber Eats and Volt all scoring 0. We asked Uber Eats, Volt and Lieferando for a response to reports of subpar working conditions at their companies. Uber Eats said it carefully investigates reports of possible irregularities in the conduct of fleet partners and has terminated partnerships in the past. Volt pointed out that while subcontractors are ultimately responsible for the payment of riders, it does run an anonymous whistleblower channel where concerns can be submitted to the company confidentially. Finally, Lieferando highlighted that its riders remain directly employed, earn an average of over €14 an hour, and are entitled to holiday and sick pay as well as overtime. Many delivery riders, whether directly employed or not, are officially hired under an employment classification specific to Germany known as a mini-job. It's a type of low-paid employment that requires lower tax and social security contributions from the employer. I've come to meet labour researcher and lawyer Aju John to find out how this particular system is being exploited within the platform economy in Germany.
This particular category is exactly what is being used and abused in sectors such as food delivery work, where on paper the subcontractors in this case, food delivery subcontractors in this case, are able to show on paper that workers are working below the ceiling, that then places them in the mini job and midi job categories, and therefore they are able to escape the liability of social security contributions. However, when in reality they are working and forced to work much longer than that.
In Aju's view, it should be the job of German tax and insurance authorities to crack down on shady subcontractors. But he says they're targeting the wrong people.
What instead we see happening is that the tax authority and the insurance authority conduct raids on the street, and it's delivery workers who are stopped and checked, and their status often comes into question, right? Because they're all migrants and they all live in fear of deportation.
There is some hope of change coming though. This year, a new EU directive is due to come into force. The aim is to improve conditions for platform economy workers.
But will it make a tangible difference?
If the EU platform directive is implemented in its proper spirit in Germany, a worker will be able to go to court against Uber Eats, even though that person has been employed through a subcontractor.
One country that's already tried to tackle the problem head-on is Spain. In 2021, it passed the Rider Law, mandating that food delivery workers be classified as regular employees. Maria Luz Rodriguez Fernandez is a professor of labour law. She says Spain's largest food delivery platform, Glovo, initially failed to comply.
Then the government, the Spanish government, make a reform or the penalties, and then now the boss of Glovo is near to prison for reject the law, not apply the law. And this was really important because since that moment when the CEO of Glovo was near to prison, they started to apply the law.
While the new rules potentially lessen earning potential by formalising working hours, Maria says most, if not all, of the riders she interviewed as part of her research feel the benefits.
Why? About all for social security benefits, because before that they didn't have any, or they had less social security benefits. And for them, this is important.
One thing that's especially struck me while reporting this story is how middlemen pop up at every level. from recruiting students from India to housing them once they're here, and finally getting them into the food delivery business.
Having completed his master's in data science, today Bavia is busy applying for jobs, hoping to find a position that matches his skills before his visa runs out. But so far, he's had no luck. He's currently employed directly as a rider by Lieferando, under the MIDI job category, allowing him to earn a maximum of €2,000 a month.
Where will I go? You do not have jobs. But you advertise in India that there are so many jobs available in this particular sector, in data science. You just advertise so much that, okay, you get paid €100,000 as well for a whole year. Right now, I'm not even just able to work on my basic this Lieferando job as well. You're not getting even paid for your daily life. What will you do? You take loans secretly. You do not tell your parents that, right?
Bavia's experience is not unusual, and it opens up as many questions as it answers. Who are all the individuals behind the WhatsApp numbers? Why aren't German authorities on top of this? And what responsibility do Indian agencies carry for marketing an image of Germany that often doesn't match up with reality?
There are so many strands to this story. Online marketing, middlemen, a culture of shame around things not working out, and authorities that can't or won't keep up with a workplace that's rife for exploitation.
While many Indians do end up with prosperous careers in Germany, for a subset of young students delivering food across the country, that prospect can seem increasingly remote.